We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
I want to talk about news, don't want the drama. From no pretentious media Madonna. I found me a great ganja mama. Cannabis and coffee with some marijuana.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee. It's a crappy day in BC. Just saying, it's pouring rain here. It's gray, it's cold, it's miserable. But I've got some sunshine on the line today because it's always a real pleasure to talk to Corrie. We had some time to catch up before the show started, so I gotta jump on all of you people with her lovely, sunshiny personality because she does always put a smile on my face. So this morning I have Corrie Yelland with me. She is a longtime advocate. I'm just going to let her talk because there's just way too much. Good morning, Corrie. How you doing?
Well, lots of people say I'm way too much, Tamara. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, well, thanks for so much for coming on and on this. Is it gray and crappy on Victoria too, or is it nice out there?
It's really nice out today. Just letting you know. It's gorgeous. It's sunny, slight breeze. I mean, I'm not applying sunscreen or anything, but I think it's about 13 degrees right now.
Nice.
And it's only 9 in the morning, so it's very, very nice. Sunday was horrible. Sunday we broke records for record cold here since 1899.
Wow. Yeah, we have had some really weird weather lately, hey? Like even here, it was like 30 degrees last week. Like super hot. Like we were melting. Like Taven's like, get the air conditioning in my room. And this week it's been maybe 13 max. Today it's pouring rain and gray and chilly too. So really strange weather.
Yeah,
the wind.
crazy,
and how's
crazy.
the wind been out there? Like I know you're right on the coast. Has it been super windy there? Because it's been super windy here.
Yeah, it's been horribly windy. It's been incredibly windy, actually.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, lots of people have lost their tomatoes and stuff that they put in their garden because they were snapping off from the wind. It was
we got hail.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, we got hail the other day.
But we can't complain. Could be worse. It really could be worse. We could have snow. So
you don't get much snow, Victoria, though. Did you guys get much snow this winter?
No. We get our half inch once a year that's gone by noon. And everybody freaks when it's happening. The Facebook blows up. Oh my God, it's snowing.
I know, right?
Anyway, good morning to you.
Yeah.
Don't know where you want me to start. Do you want me to start at the beginning?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who are you? Who are you? And how you got into cannabis? Because I know it was kind of like you were a non-consumer. You weren't.
I was a non-consumer.
Right.
Yeah, I had tried cannabis in my late teens, early 20s, and I was one of those people that got super freaking paranoid. So I thought, well, this isn't for me. Didn't have anything against it, just didn't enjoy it myself.
Wasn't for you. Yeah.
Fast forward to July of 2011. I was diagnosed with anal cancer and given 2 to 4 months to live. So that got my attention. Big time.
Right.
And I was already seriously compromised health-wise. I had in 2007, I had a heart attack and double bypass surgery. And as a result of that, I'd been left with a very debilitating condition called post-sternotomy syndrome, which equaled 5 years worth of pain is basically what it was.
Right.
My sternum would shift all the time. Incredibly painful. I was on handfuls of meds, like 10 to 15 Tylenol 3 a day, Percocet, Dilaudid, morphine, Opium, OxyContin, you name it, I had it. And, spent my days on painkillers, couldn't wait for night to come, take a sleeping pill, go to sleep, wake up 2 hours later in pain, sit on my patio, rock back and forth crying till morning, and I'd go, okay, I made it through another night. And that was my life for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then I received this diagnosis of anal cancer. And I thought, what the heck am I going to do? So, off to the cancer clinic we went. And basically he looked at me and he said, well, this is the worst part of the body to treat. You're going to have second and third degree burns, vaginally, rectally, perianally. We're going to hit your coccyx and your pubic bone, so you'll have bone deterioration. We're going to try not to hit your spine. Very comforting, let me tell you. And then he looks at me, and he's very matter of fact. He just looks over at me and he goes, oh, yes, your vagina will probably fuse shut, and your rectum will probably fuse shut too. But if your rectum fuses shut, don't worry. We'll just take you up to the operating room and dilate you. And in that moment, I thought, I don't think so.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And, he wouldn't give me clear answers on pain control, and he wouldn't give me clear answers on long-term side effects. So I told him I wanted some time to think about it. He stood up, and he looked at me, and he told me I had a death wish, that I had 2 to 4 months, and walked out. And so the two people I were with, we sat there kind of looking at each other for a couple of minutes, and then my friend said, well, I guess we're done here. So we went upstairs to the library, and there wasn't a lot on anal cancer, but what there was on anal cancer, they wanted to do radiation to me. What was the number one cause of anal cancer? Radiation. And I'm thinking, okay, let me get this straight. You want to radiate me to get rid of cancer to what? Create more cancer?
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And I did later down the road find out, because it was written right on my chart, that they did not expect radiation to work, yet they were going to put me through that.
I know.
And, some of the long-term side effects of this, Tamara, that they don't tell people is, number one, you will never, ever know again when you have to go to the bathroom. So don't leave home without 10 pairs of underwear.
Mm-hmm.
You will go to the bathroom tons and tons and tons of times a day. Chronic diarrhea. Anyway, it just went on. And
Right.
I just thought to myself, I would rather die.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what most people would think. Like, that's a pretty drastic, horrific, and the bedside manner of that doctor. Like, you're kidding me. This is the
what
treatment
bedside?
right? But that's what I mean. Like, this is one of the worst things, horrific, traumatic things you could tell somebody, and the doctor to go, you have a death wish. Who says that to somebody? Like, what doctor? Like, I my mouth is on the ground, and I know I've heard this story. I think I've had you on my show before, but every time I hear it, it's the same shocking. Like, I can't get over how they just kind of left you sitting there, going, "Okay, well, now what do I do?"
Yeah, well, and
it's heartbreaking.
This is an oncologist. This is his field of expertise. A little bit of empathy would go a long way. Most people, I went in there informed, Tamara, and I know there are people that don't. And I can't even imagine if I wasn't informed and had dealt with an individual like that.
Right.
Because you're already coming from a place of complete terror at that stage in the game. You've been hit by an emotional semi.
Right.
And, you're just reeling. And then you have this guy look at you and tell you, your vagina's going to fuse shut. Don't worry about your rectum, though. We'll dilate you in the OR.
Yeah, we'll just cut you a new asshole. Don't worry about it.
It's like, oh, my God. Anyway, my sister sent me a video called Run from the Cure, and, I could see it was an hour long, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about holistic ways of treating cancer because I'd worked previously as a counselor coming from a holistic arena, counseling terminally ill cancer patients and their families. So I thought, oh, my God, it's an hour long. But she called me and she said, have you watched it? And I'm like, no. So I thought, oh, geez, okay, I'll watch 5 minutes a day, just get her off my back. So I started to watch the first 5 minutes, and I went, whoa, yeah, it was crazy. It made sense to me. I was like, holy shit. So I watched it again, and I ended up calling an internationally known physician friend of mine in Italy, and I said, Danielle, what do you know about this? And he's like, oh, Corrie, we've been using cannabinoids for years to treat cancer.
Right.
And so I did nothing but research it for the next 2 to 3 weeks, day in, day out. That's all I did. And at the end, I did decide that's what I was going to do. And I remember saying to my son, Michael, I don't know, quantity or quality? And I remember him saying to me, Mom, I stand behind you, whatever you choose. So I embarked on this journey of taking cannabis oil. Run from the Cure was this video about this Nova Scotian man who had rediscovered or brought to the forefront that cannabis and in cannabis extract can indeed, in quotations, cure. Let's just call it obliterate cancer. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to try. And, so into the doctors I go, and I had the 2 GPs that shared the office, and I dealt with the female. And she looked at me, and, because I wanted what I wanted basically was a form saying I could use medical cannabis.
Right.
And she looked at me and she said, I don't do that. It's against my religion. I thought, I don't care if it's against your religion. It's not against mine. I'm trying to live here.
Right.
Anyway, she said, you can try asking Paul, the other GP. But she said, I don't think he will go for it either. So I thought, shite, what am I going to do now? And anyway, long story short, went down to the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, took my medical papers showing that I indeed had terminal cancer, et cetera. And Ted, who you know, lovely Ted Smith, he was great. He came out and he himself said, came up to me and said, I'm so sorry. And, went through the orientation, et cetera, and thought, okay, great. Went up to the desk and said, yeah, I'd like to buy some cannabis oil. And the person behind the desk looked at me and said, we don't have that. And I said, what do you mean you don't have that? And I remember this utter sense of despair and just being overwhelmed and like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
So I ended up making my own, went on the Phoenix Tears website, phoenixtears.ca website, and there was a video on how to make it. And I was on disability at the time, so my friends all got together and donated some money, and we got I think 2 ounces of cannabis, 4 different strains. And I printed them off, all a copy of the instructions, and we had all watched the video, so it was, on how to not blow each other up, And
that's the thing.
Oil.
Exactly. It can be dangerous, but I mean,
it could be very dangerous. Please don't ever make this inside, people.
Yeah, it's
an
outside activity.
Yeah, I did the old antiquated rice cooker, method, and we did it in my friend's backyard, and we made this oil. We got this tiny amount of oil, and I remember looking at this syringe of black shit and thinking, this is going to save my life.
Right.
And, I'm not particularly religious. I'd call myself more spiritual than religious, but, it's funny how you revert back. So I was doing the deals with God. Okay, even if you just hold it at bay, I'd be all right with that.
Right.
So I started taking this cannabis oil. And so the first time that I took it, I was so petrified, keeping in mind that I am like the queen of paranoia on pot. I have the crown. I had this friend stay with me for 9 hours the first time, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to live. So that was, I embarked on that journey. I wasn't taking very much because I'm really a lightweight when it comes to cannabis. And then I started, I don't know how I stumbled across it, because this was before the days of Facebook pages on this. I was completely and utterly on my own, and I do mean completely on my own. Yeah. But I somehow came up with the idea of suppositories. So I started doing those, except at the time I didn't know that if you didn't push it in too far, you didn't get high. So, I mean, I was, trying to get it up into my throat.
Right.
So I was getting high because it was getting pulled through the liver. So for your listeners out there that are, maybe going through this journey right now, with suppositories, the key to suppositories is 1 inch to 1.5 inches in, no further. You want it just past the inner sphincter muscle. Yeah. Or as one woman so eloquently put it to me, and I love this, I always tell people that I'm speaking to who are embarking on this journey, I tell them this because I think they have a light bulb moment. She was one of these people that was anatomically naive, and she just could not get the whole suppository thing. And I think she was a little rough around the edges. But anyway, finally she goes, "Oh, you mean where it gets to that part where it kind of sucks it in?" I'm like, yes, that's where you want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started doing cannabis oil, and friends-wise, there were people who were really supportive, and there were others that were kind of looking at me like I had a third eye. But even the third eye people, I remember this one man in particular saying to me 10 days later, "Oh my God, you look so different. within 10 days, Tamara. I, who was on shitloads of medication that would kill a freaking elephant normally,
Right.
went from all those meds I previously have spoken about to half a Tylenol 3 in 10 days.
Yeah.
And that was something I hadn't even counted on, like was taking care of pain. I was just on this, I was on this journey to save my life.
Right.
And, I remember people would walk by me on the street and they didn't even recognize me because I was like this little old lady before them, doubled over in pain. And so friends would walk right past me and not even recognize me. That's how profound the difference was in me. And then I noticed, whoa, because some of the tumors I had were external. I could feel they were shrinking, and it was like, oh, my God. So back in the day, it was all about doing 60 grams in 90 days.
Right.
Well, I never got to a gram a day. I got nowhere near a gram a day. I couldn't afford to do it, and I couldn't do it tolerance-wise either. So I did not go back to the doctor for a year because I was convinced that because I hadn't done it right, I still had cancer. So, I thought finally, I should, go back to the doctor. So I crawled back, and this particular doctor, this was a specialist, and he, when I had told him what I was going to do, because at one point after the diagnostic surgery, I had seen him, and he said, "So, how's the radiation coming?" And I said, "Well, we need to talk." And so I told him all about the video, and at the end, and he listened with rapt attention for 15 minutes, and he walked across the room, got on his knees, took my hands in his, and said, "I want you to know I stand behind you 100% and support you in this," which blew my mind. And so anyway, I'm back at his office now, and so he examines me, and he gets a really weird look on his face. And he said, "Do you mind if I examine you again?" And so we did it again, and he's looking even stranger. And he said, "I hate to ask you this, but could I do this one more time?" And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he looked at me, and he said, "It's gone. It's completely gone." And I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, I was just, like, bawling my eyes out, totally bawling my eyes out. And he's like, "I would have never known that you had cancer, ever." As a matter of fact, he wrote that in the report to my GP. Said, had I not known her diagnosis, I would have never known she'd had cancer. No scar tissue, nothing. So then he said, I want to take you into the hospital and do some biopsies just to be totally sure. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know what, there's still going to be a few rogue cells, but I'm winning the battle. I've come up over the mountain. It's downhill from here.
Right.
So he takes me into the OR and they do some biopsies. Do you know they came back not even showing any dysplasia, nothing. And so I go back to the doctor's office, and he walks in the room. He's got this piece of paper in his hand, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and his eyes welled up, and he said, "You did it." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "You did it." And he could hardly talk. He's like, "You're 100% cancer-free."
Right.
So, so that's how I got started on this. So I said, I had said all along, Tamara, if this worked, I would spend the rest of my life telling people about it. So that's what I do. I've helped save well over 1,500 lives now. I'm known internationally. I speak at conferences, and I get thousands and thousands of emails, et cetera, and that's how I first got involved in helping patients, because everybody needs to know that this could change or save their life.
That's right. And that's an amazing journey to just be able to even get to where you are now. And that was 9 years ago, right? We were talking about that before.
That was 9 years ago.
10 years. Yep. So it's almost your 10-year anniversary of being cancer-free.
Free, yeah. I just got my scan back not even a week ago, and I'm still clear.
Now, do you still consume oil every
I
day?
do. I take a maintenance dose every night.
Right.
Nothing near what I was taking on a daily basis when I was actively fighting it. Now, back in the day, Rick Simpson said, when you do a maintenance dose, a gram a month, I think that's too low. I always tell people to aim for 2 to 3 grams a month. I just would rather err on the side of caution.
Well, and that's the thing, it's not a gram a day. You even though you were talking about, I was going to go back to that, because I know a lot of people say, start with a grain of rice and then work yourself up to a gram a day. That's super expensive when sometimes you can't get a gram for less than $100 in some cases. Especially,
I know.
you know
And
what I
so,
mean?
yeah, let me be very clear with people. I have cleared a number or participated in clearing a number of people that got nowhere near a gram a day. Now, one was a 16-year-old boy with Hodgkin's B-cell diffuse lymphoma. He was literally on his deathbed. He was an Australian boy, and he was on oil. It wasn't working. And we worked some magic, and he ended up with a multi-strain oil, but he was hyper sensitive to THC. And I spent so much time Skyping with his mom, and he maybe got to a third of a gram a day, at most. And they took him for a scan. It wasn't even 3 months later. And the parents called me sobbing from the parking lot. And I thought he had passed. And the father was the first to be able to talk. And he said, "You've given me my son back." And the scan said, and I quote, it is incredible and a miracle, a complete metabolic response with absolutely no sign of disease. And that 16-year-old who only did a 30 gram a day remains clear today. He celebrated his 19th birthday 3 weeks ago.
That's
Mom
awesome.
sent me a picture of him surfing in Australia. So, and that's on a third of a gram, okay? So this gram, yeah, it's wonderful if you can afford to do it and you have the tolerance to do it, but a lot of people don't.
Well, that's the thing. Depending on how your intake, too, like whether you're taking it suppositorily or orally, you don't get the high so much if you're doing it suppositorily. So the intake can be higher when you're doing it rectally, right? But when you're doing it orally, you're going to get some sort of high out of it. So depending, like you said, on your tolerance, because some people, you eat a gram of oil, you're going to be sleeping. You're just going to be out. Like, it's just going to lay you out. Like, that's kind of...
it's going to lay you out for days in some cases.
Right.
I'm really glad you brought up suppositories because I want to mention this before I forget. There's a lot of controversy around suppositories. So let me preface this by saying 95% of the people I've cleared have done a regime suppository morning and afternoon, oral at night. So studies indicate that suppositories, cannabis oil is not absorbed rectally into the bloodstream, and so people are saying you waste your money. And I have gone toe-to-toe with people for 9 years on this. And I'd say, you're trying to tell me that little minuscule dose that they're taking at night, that's what cleared all of these people? I don't think so. However, studies out, this is very, very recent in the past few months, they took rats in a lab situation, and rats apparently have a system comparable to human beings. Apparently, so, yes, we have a lot of blood vessels in the rectum, but we also have a lot of lymph nodes. And the cannabis oil is being absorbed in the fluid of the lymph nodes and drawn through the lymph nodes and distributed through the body that way. And that is how it's getting into the system. But what was more profound to me, and really a light bulb moment about why suppositories work so well, is they administered cannabis oil orally and rectally to these rats. In the rectal application, the concentration of THC was 100 times stronger, and the CBD concentration 250 times stronger, without the high.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was. That was my glory moment, Tamara, let me tell you.
I know there, like I said, I know lots of people that have, often said, like, especially for cancer patients, especially if you don't want to feel the high, to, go with the suppository. But a lot of people don't want to deal with that. But even if, just saying, like, when, Taven was in surgery, he was given medication rectally rather than orally, because you can't. So they still
80% of medicine in Europe is given rectally still today.
Right.
Because it's the best absorption route.
Right. I don't think a lot of people kind of understand that, and I guess and they everything's got to be done orally, and same like with smoking. Like if you've got somebody with lung cancer, you don't want them smoking a joint. Like,
no.
It's just not the way to do it, right? And COPD, again, some ways of absorbing and trying to get the medication into the system. You can't be doing it by vaping or smoking it.
No, and I'm glad you brought this lung cancer thing up because I've had more success with lung cancer than any other cancer. Probably cleared 300, 350 of them, all stage 3 and 4 with the exception of 2 that were stage 2. And for the longest time, I would say, I don't know why, but lung cancer patients do really well on suppositories. And then I had a naturopathic physician call me up. She wanted to send a few people my way. And we started talking about lung cancer because these were actually lung cancer patients. And she told me that the lung and the colon are on the same meridian. So there's a direct connect there.
Right.
And so, yeah, lung cancer patients do extremely well on suppositories.
Exactly. So again, there are so many ways of consuming cannabis rather than smoking and vaping or in a brownie. Again, if you have cancer, you do not want to be taking sugar. I make candies, but I do not send those candies out to anybody with cancer because the first thing I say to them is, no, cancer is, sugar feeds cancer. I do not recommend my candy for you. Whether,
when I'm speaking to cancer patients about diet, I talk to them about the fact that when they go for a scan and they give you something to drink or they inject you, the base of that is sugar. The reason for it is cancer cells go absolutely berserk when sugar hits the system. They light up like a freaking Christmas tree. So essentially, every time that you're consuming sugar, you are fertilizing your cancer cells. So often, cancer patients are craving sugar. When they understand the mechanism, what's going on, I think it makes it easier for them. The reason you're craving sugar is because your cancer cells are trying to thrive.
Yeah.
That's what they thrive on. Most cancers are sugar burning.
Right.
That's their fuel. That's
Right.
their fuel. So you're feeding your cancer when you're taking this sugar in.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's so important to be aware of that. It's such a simple thing, but it's so important. And yet you go to the cancer clinic. I've heard the tales of the cookies and muffins, et cetera, donuts being handed out. And I'm just floored, help me pick my jaw up off the floor, please.
Well, it's kind of like when you go give blood, they hand you a thing of juice.
Yeah.
Full of sugar. Right? And you're like, well, your sugar levels must be low. How is me giving you blood making my sugar levels low? Like, what, you're just sucking the sugar out of my blood? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I know they seem to be, advocates for sugar and all these things that are bad for us. And again, like, doctors, I still can't get over the way those doctors talk to you. But again, I was at the ER and, laying there waiting for test results back too, and they're just, I don't know if it's lack of time, lack of care, lack of funds, lack of anything, but it just seems like healthcare is really not what it used to be. You know what I mean? It just seems
you have to advocate. You have to advocate for yourself. Absolutely. And people who advocate for themselves, and I'm sure you'll back me on this, do far better anyway. I have two types of people that come to me, the type that have done the research and may not have the same amount of knowledge I have, but have at least dipped their toe in the water. And then I have the type that come to me and throw themselves at my feet and go, make me better. The ones that advocate for themselves do far better by a country mile, because you are taking control of the cancer or your illness rather than the illness or the cancer controlling you.
Right. And on that note, we got to thank our sponsors. So we're going to take a quick break, play some commercials, and we'll be right back. You've been listening to us live on paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
All right, we're back with Corrie. We were yapping about gardens because, as we were looking at the rain, I don't know, I know we were talking before and you put some little bits of stuff in your garden boxes, and I took your advice and put a Rubbermaid container together. I can't deal with the mud pit, right? So again, we were talking about patience and how, like, you know, you've got the two different kinds. The ones that have been, you know, touching, and they kind of been half educated. But in reality, like, it really sometimes takes somebody like yourself to really feed them the right information, because there is so much misinformation online too, right? Because run from the cure is good. But again, you know, the NAFTA, comparably to isopropanol, don't do it in the house, do it outside. There are people that have blown their houses up trying to make oil for themselves and really hurt themselves. So again, like, there's great information online, but sometimes you need that little angel on your thing, that on your shoulder, that says, now make sure you don't do that inside. Make sure you don't, you know, use like 4 gallons of ISO to 3 pounds of pot, because that might not be safe. You know what I mean? Even though you're going to get a better return because you know more. But don't do it, because if you do, you're going to end up in trouble. Like, it could be dangerous. You don't get a lot of those messages online.
No. My messages are more things. You were talking about the misinformation, and I went, ding, I need to put this out there. Please, people, understand, CBD does not
say that louder,
kill
from them
cancer.
In the back of the room.
CBD alone does not kill cancer.
Right.
Please, people, I cannot tell you, there's so much misinformation out there. I cannot tell you how many people I have lost because they thought CBD killed
Because I've
cancer
had people
by
come
itself.
to me and go, I've got so-and-so that has cancer. Can you get me some CBD oil? And the first thing I say to them is, CBD ain't going to do anything for them if they got cancer.
No.
You need to have a level of THC. And even people with epilepsy, like I have friends with children that have epilepsy, and one's not a child anymore. Haley's 28, but Maya's still just, she's 14. She's still a kid. She's a teenager now. Puberty and all kinds of fun stuff. When we've got epilepsy, that makes things twice as hard. Just saying. And they're CBD alone. No, sorry.
No. Well, what we find, Tamara, with seizure children, is CBD can be really, in most cases, harmful. Quite effective. However, when they hit, and can be totally controlled, and then they hit puberty and they go south.
Yeah.
You add some THC in, and they're fine.
Right.
But there's the exception to the rules. Like Novalee is a very high-profile case. A little girl, beautiful little girl, born in, I believe, Texas, with part of her brain missing, and they're a refugee family that moved to Colorado. CBD did nothing for her. It actually made her seizures worse.
Right.
She's on THC, and her seizures are incredibly controlled. She used to have hundreds of seizures a day. I want to go back to the whole CBD thing for a minute, too. Please be aware there's CBD from hemp and there's CBD from cannabis. And in my humble opinion, they are not the same. I see CBD from cannabis being much more effective than CBD from hemp. That's just my personal experience. Also, people tend to think and assume, and rightly so, that if they're going to a dispensary, the CBD they're getting is from cannabis. That is not always the case. Now, you probably know, as you know, Tamara, I do a show called Cannabis Health Radio, and one of the individuals that we interviewed on there was a gentleman who runs a lab in the States that blind label tests all of the different CBDs. And, of course, CBD, there's thousands of them in the States, different brands. You can buy it at 7-Eleven for crying out loud, and it's CBD from hemp.
Right.
Do you know that 90% of those products did not contain what they said it did?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
90% of them.
That's what I tell people all the time.
Beware.
Exactly. Be careful what you're buying. There are snake oil salesmen out there everywhere. And that's the bad rap that CBDs are also getting, is because some of them are really effective and they work really well for some people. But then people get them, it's not effective at all. And then you have to wonder, are they even CBDs at all?
I had a woman call me from the States, and she had really bad arthritis, and she'd gotten some CBD, and it didn't help at all. All it did was make her tired. And I said, gosh, that's really strange, because CBD, I've seen nothing but wonderful results with CBD and arthritis. And I said, are you in a state where you can get that tested? And so she did. Do you know it came back saying, quote, trace amounts of CBD. The rest of it was melatonin.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, melatonin.
Oh, my God. So they just
buyer beware.
Yeah.
But also let's talk about CBD and cancer. So there are cases where CBD can be really good for cancer in conjunction with THC.
Right.
Okay? Certainly brain tumors, we'll use it. I tend to use it separate, high THC and then high CBD, particularly if it's a child, and some of the hormone-driven breast cancers. But let's talk about the whole hormone-driven breast cancer myth, because that's what helps me remain insane.
Okay.
Okay, so back in the day, we treated everybody with high THC when it came to breast cancer.
Right.
Okay, with the triple negatives, we're pretty easy to clear. The hormone-driven, not so much, but we certainly had our successes. Then we had a study out of San Francisco about 6 years ago when CBD became the new kid on the block, indicating that with hormone-driven breast, the best way to go was high CBD. We had 52 women, all with hormone-driven breast cancer. We got them in on a CBD from cannabis, testing out at an unheard of 63% CBD.
Wow.
In not one of those 52 cases did it make any difference. Okay? There is some question as to whether or not CBD pushes breast cancer growth in hormone-driven breast cancers. However, please be aware that all of that information came out of one poorly conducted, poorly put together, in quotation, study that in the end did not even meet the criteria for what is deemed a study.
Wow.
And it has created mass hysteria in women with hormone-driven breast cancer. Many of you are probably familiar with Dr. Bob Malamud. I've spoken at a number of conferences with him, and he started looking at this 2 years ago. And what he found was this: the common denominator in these cases where perhaps, underlined, THC may be pushing hormone-driven breast cancer, the common denominator was that in every one of those cases, the woman had had chemotherapy. So anybody who knows anything about chemotherapy knows that chemotherapy just switches up your cells to more resistant forms of cancer.
Right.
So what he is thinking is happening in these cases is that it's, in his words, changing these cells into super cells is what he's calling them. As I said earlier, most cancers are sugar burning. What he thinks is going on is that they are now, these cancer cells are now a fat-burning cell, which would certainly be supported by the fact if you have a hormone-driven breast cancer woman who has had chemotherapy and you put her on a ketogenic diet, she's going to go south really quick, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I've had a couple of incredible successes lately with extremely advanced, on the deathbed, hormone-driven breast with severe metastasis, where we've put women on high THC, and we have actually cleared them. One was actually a police officer. You can check out her interview. We put it up a couple of weeks ago on our show, Cannabis Health Radio. She was hormone-driven breast with extensive metastasis to the bones, and I do believe lymph nodes.
Wow.
She was in a wheelchair. They'd given her a few months, and that was it. She called me the 22nd of January. We got her on oil. It was a 4-strain THC oil to a 1-part CBD from 2 different strains of cannabis, and that woman is clear in a matter of months.
That's incredible.
I know. Absolutely incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And that, like you said, you're saying that it's got like 4 different strain level THC. Like, that's something that's new too. That's the first time. This is the first time I'm hearing about the different strain level. Again, the science is coming, and that's
the
what
science
we've
is
needed,
coming. And
right?
you know, we have certainly discovered that you are far better off with a multi-strain versus a single strain, because every plant has different levels of cannabinoids, flavonoids, terpenes, etc.
Right.
And they all work synergistically together. I always say to people, it's kind of like going to the horse races. If you bet on 1 horse or you bet on 6, you got a better chance if you're betting on 6 horses than 1.
Absolutely.
You know, just you kind of.
Right.
FYI, I've never been to the racetrack, but you know, should I go, I'll be betting on 6.
Right. And number 6 will be the best one. 1, 3, and 6. Make sure you get those numbers. Get those 3 horses. But exactly.
You know, I want to share with you and your listeners probably the most profound story of 10 years of working with thousands upon thousands of patients. I had a woman come to me about her mom on March 13th of this year. Mom had stage 4 breast cancer with extensive metastasis. You ready for this? To the lungs, her other breast, her liver, her pancreas, her ovaries, her brain, her back, her lymph nodes, and the bone in her leg.
So basically spread everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
She contacted me the other day, and she sent me a photograph of her mom from the 13th of March, and she sent me a photograph from the other day. In the 13th of the March photograph, you can see how ill this woman is, and she's absolutely yellow. She says, this is her today, coming back from outdoor market shopping. She was dying. Now that she's had a gram a day, she's walking, busy in the kitchen, getting back to her true busy self, oil-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. My dad says the day he started her, she got up out of bed, went to the kitchen to make homemade biscuits for the family.
Wow.
I spoke to this woman yesterday on video with her daughter. I expect her voice to be quite frail. Her voice is strong. She's looking at me. She says, I think I was near death. I was in a coma. I said, yeah, you had the ticket to the exit door, but you bypassed it. Now you're at the front of the line. Okay.
And those
So
are the
here she
stories,
was,
right? These are the stories that make it worth it.
March 13th. So she probably didn't get her oil for a week. And so she's on, again, that 4-to-1 that I talked to you about.
Right, yeah.
And I'm absolutely gobsmacked. It's incredible. I can't even believe it. And I've seen some pretty amazing things happen in my life. It's, in this life of in the cancer cannabis world.
Right.
But nothing as profound as this. And it's just, wow. The potential for this plant and what it can do for everybody. I often say, Tamara, show me a disease condition, any disease condition, that cannabis oil doesn't at least help, or cannabis doesn't help. I'm yet to find one.
Yeah.
It's not. No, is it in quotations a cure? No. I can tell you when it comes to cancer that it has an 80% success rate.
Yeah.
Given the fact that chemotherapy has a 3% success rate, I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
Well,
however, that aside
chemotherapy has been, everybody knows chemotherapy is just killing your immune system. With the new biotics, like they've got new biotics, I know that they're talking about with cancer too, that's actually making your own immune system battle the cancer itself. But that's what cannabis kind of is doing. It's kind of like infusing your immune system to battle the cancer itself. It's adhering itself to your own immune system to make you battle it. And I think it's the same.
Yeah, it creates homeostasis in your
right.
Yeah, it creates homeostasis in your system. So balance. It creates balance in your system. But just to address the whole chemotherapy thing, it's not my place to tell somebody to do chemotherapy or not to do chemotherapy.
Yeah,
It's a very personal choice. What I can tell people is this: in cases where people choose to do chemotherapy, if they do it in conjunction with cannabis oil, they come through it far, far better by a country mile. And when I say that, I'm not just referring to the severity of the side effects, but also into how effective the actual chemotherapy is.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
it was interesting. There was a report out a while ago, and I paid attention to it because it was mainstream news. And it was talking about pancreatic cancer, which is one of the most aggressive cancers, and it's almost always stage 4 by the time it's diagnosed because it's so insidious and the symptoms are so benign. Where they're seeing the most success with pancreatic cancer is chemotherapy in conjunction with cannabis oil. And I was kind of blown away because it was mainstream news, right?
Right.
So I found that kind of interesting.
That is interesting, but I think with legalization in Canada, with it being slowly opening up in the States. I mean, Colorado's been, as well, West, whatever, but there are other states now that are kind of slowly even opening, more and more towards, medical cannabis as it was or is. And as long as it stays medical in these states, the research for medical will still continue to be done. Once it turns into recreation, it kind of loses its medical effect on everybody. So, it's a really fine line with that medical recreational. You know what I mean?
It is. But, I'm kind of concerned for Colorado. So I'm in contact with Janet Sweeney, who is in Littleton, an hour out of Denver. And she said they're really clamping down now on dispensaries, and they're starting to limit how much THC can be in the product, et cetera. And she said it's like we're going backwards.
Oh, no.
So, I found that really sad. And I know in Washington used to be medical, but it's all about recreation now.
Yeah. That's where I'm, like I said, even with our market, like once we hit recreation, us medical have really been kind of left behind because you can't walk into a store and buy RSO.
No. And, one thing I want to mention, too, is people, please be aware if you're fighting cancer that the cannabis oil that you can get via the government is nowhere near strong enough for what you need, okay? Great for that patch of psoriasis on your forearm, but it's not going to do anything for an aggressive cancer, and they're capped out, I believe, at 30%.
Yeah.
When somebody comes to me with cancer, I tell them they need a minimum of 60% THC.
Right.
So that 30% is not going to do it. Please don't fall for it. And, the problem, too, there, Tamara, is I think some of these doctors in all good faith are sending their patients to places like this thinking, they're doing a good thing, but they don't have the education themselves.
I think they're assuming it was the same as it was in the illegal market. Because, sorry, excuse me, prior to legalization, these dispensaries that were running, you could go and get from...
what you needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, because of the cap, you can't. And you can't walk into any of these stores because it crosses over we can't give any medical advice because we're not medical people or practitioners, right? And that's where the recreational line, and even like I mentioned that to everybody that I talked to, like, I am not a medical doctor. I do not have any medical background, blah, blah, blah. I'm not, at all. But this is what my experiences are as a cannabis patient. But again, that's what the line is between recreation and medical. So when you walk into a recreational store, somebody can't ask what's good for cancer or good for this or good for that, because these people that are working behind the counter don't have a medical degree. So you can't give medical advice.
Don't have a medical degree and often don't have the knowledge.
Well, that too. But again, like, because you're asking for medical advice, they can't give it to you because they're not a doctor, nurse practitioner. And then you go to a doctor, and the doctor, nurse, and nurse practitioners don't have the information or education either because they're not trained for that. So it leaves people in a real conundrum when it comes to wanting to learn about medical cannabis. That leaves people like you and I that have to, try and do the research ourselves and do on-hand stuff and still mention that we're not medical doctors. We're not nurses. We're not nurse practitioners. We're just giving you our opinion and our advice, and you can take it or not. I never tell people, do not listen to your doctor. That's one thing I make sure that it's always like, make sure whatever don't not take chemotherapy if that's what your doctor's advised to you. It's your choice. You decide what you want to do, but please do not do that because of, because I can't guarantee 110% that cannabis is going to work for you either. Because sometimes
I always encourage people to do their research. But, I was in a documentary a few years ago and called On a Scale of 1 to 10, The Silent Epidemic. And I was at the screening party, and they were going to, show it for the first time. And the director came up to me and said, Corrie, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. He introduced me to this doctor, Zaid Muhammad Ali. And he was a urologist come surgeon come oncologist. And he said to me, Corrie, I was dragged kicking and screaming into the cannabis world by my patients. And we started talking, and he was head of a medical cannabis company, which I'll just not name. And he had no idea of what level of THC was needed to fight cancer. He was blown away. He was stunned. And yet this was a company that supposedly, in quotations, knew about cannabis.
Well, that's because
you only know what you're taught.
Right. Well, stigmatization, right? Like everybody, the higher THC, it's just bad. We don't know what the highest THC levels are bad because in reality, some of us can take thousands of milligrams of THC and function quite normally because we're not smoking it, right?
It's that. This is why I say, don't worry that you're not getting to that gram a day. How many cannabinoid receptors do you have? There's so many variables, right?
Right. Absolutely. And it's, like I said, some people, like you said, you couldn't consume it. It made you paranoid. I've got many people that say the same thing to me. I can't do this because it makes me act like I'm myself. I can't smoke certain strains. It makes me feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. So I'm
glad you brought this up. So there is a supplement out there for people. This is how I was able to raise my dose. There's a supplement out there, natural supplement. It's called citicoline. I'm going to spell that because there's a product called acetylcholine. That is not what you need. So citicoline, citicoline. What it's for is mental clarity. What it does is block the receptor that causes any anxiety or paranoia, and it works like a charm.
Oh, interesting.
Take AOR is one brand of it, but you can get it on the net or whatever. Take 1 or 2, 20 minutes to half an hour before taking your oil, and you're going to be fine. Also, if you're feeling kind of dragged out in the morning, like kind of hungover, in quotations, take one of those and you'll snap 2 in 10 or 15 minutes. You can have up to 12 of those a day. I've never known anybody to need anywhere near that amount. So that's what I started taking. That's what allowed me to raise my dose. In the end, I haven't had citicoline in years and years and years now, but in the beginning, it really, really helped. So I'm always sure to tell my people about that because it's a game changer for some people.
Wow, that's really interesting too. Citicoline. That's so you have to check at your natural health food store. Maybe can you get it from somewhere? Like
Not all health food stores have it, but I do know AOR. If you Google AOR, there's a 1-800 number. If you call them, they will tell you the closest store to where you live that has it, or they will send it to you.
Oh, cool, excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
I swear by that stuff. It was a lifesaver back in my day, that's for sure.
Oh, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
So I want to share this little bit about a story about my son. So I had told you earlier in the interview here that my son had said, he stood behind me regardless of what choice I made.
Right. Yeah.
And, of course, I chose to go and do cannabis. So when I called him, very emotional, of course, because I've just found out I'm cancer-free, to tell him that I was clear and cancer-free, he said to me, Mom, when you told me that you had decided to do cannabis oil, I thought to myself, I have my mother for 4 more months. He didn't think it would work.
Wow. Well, you're here
and now
10 years later.
Now
right?
He's like, oh, my God, Mom, I think you've become an activist.
Yeah, now 10 years later, it's like, Mom, I'm so, that is, but you're such a success story. Like there's so many that look to you for help because you have done this. And, mine, the positive attitude too, and the fact that, there was no way this was going to get you down, and that you'd still maintain, and you're still doing maintenance. So it's not like it was all gone too much, everything's clear and you just put cannabis off to the side and went, I'm not going to do anything more. You have given back to this community on so many levels, Corrie. Like you're an unbelievably amazing person. Like not just because of the cancer, not just because you keep giving back. And like you said, you've helped so many people. I mean, that's not paying it forward. That's paying it double down. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's overwhelming to see. And then tomorrow will be a new day, and you'll have 20 more people come to you looking for help, and you'll help that 20 people because that's who you are. And I want to thank you for doing that because so many people have given up and don't have anywhere to go. And then there's just this shining light, and there you are. I want to thank you for being on my show today because we've run out of time. See, I told you we would just fly by.
It did go fast. If anybody wants to contact me, I am on Facebook. Please go to my Corrie G.A. Yelland page, Corrie G.A. Yelland, Yelland, because my other one's full, and Facebook arbitrarily took down my other one. That was 5,000 people on it. Right. So good old Facebook.
Now you have your own little podcast as well. What's Cannabis Health?
Yes, Cannabis Health, CannabisHealthRadio.com. Our show's just strictly about interviewing patients who used cannabis oil to get well. So give us a check out. We'll have to have you on our show, Tamara. I was thinking about that earlier.
Well, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to be on. But like I said, there's so many ways of getting in touch with you. But again, please be patient because Corrie's super busy. So if she doesn't get back to you right away, don't feel like she's ignoring. Just give the lady a break because she's a busy lady.
Yeah, be a squeaky wheel. Please be a squeaky wheel. I get hundreds of emails a day, so it's really super easy to get buried.
Right.
Or messages a day. I get hundreds of messages. Don't email me because I've got 700,000. You're not going to be seen there. So, yeah.
Right.
Private message.
Busy, right? She's a busy lady.
Yes.
So, yeah. So she doesn't answer you right away. Give her some space, and she will get to you. But again, I want to thank you because, like I said, there's so many people that you've helped along the way, and even like I said, continuing education. And hopefully, COVID gets over with, so we can have you visit here, or I can come out there, or we can gather somewhere because you've been to Prague too, right? You've spoken.
Yes,
in
I've been
overseas
to Prague 5 years. 5 years actually. For 5 years, I've been going.
Right.
Every year, except last. Yeah, Cannabis being the largest cannabis convention in the world is pretty amazing.
Right. And so let's hope that travel's something that we can, do so we can gather. I'd like to, like I was saying, I'd like to do a women's retreat.
That would be very
cool. And I was
cool.
thinking, afterwards, go to Jamaica, or somewhere warm. Fuck, come to my backyard. See, the backyard
all right,
sounds
you're
good.
on. Count me in.
But then I'm thinking, maybe Jamaica or somewhere where we could go and just relax, but, educate each other because I think, regrouping, I don't know, there's so many people in the industry now that things have changed so much. But again, like you said, you can't get what you need from the stores. So we need to keep educating people so we can get the right education out there so that we can make more people healthy. So on that note,
Exactly.
I'd like to thank my sponsors and thank my Al for having the network, because he doesn't help me produce anymore. I do this by myself, but I still like to thank him anyways for having the network available for us to have a show. So thanks again, and you were listening to us live on paceradio.net. You'll have a great week.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our Hydroponics Superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.